Welcome back, guys. And I have to say, we've got another exciting interview for you now. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you to Emmeline Irvine. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Do you want to tell everyone a bit about who you are, what you do, and who you work for?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Emmeline. I'm the Business and Enterprise Manager for Penrose Options. Penrose have been going for over 45 years, and we provide specialist services for vulnerable people who need support, advice, care and advocacy to help navigate their way sort of back to independent and fulfilled living. Sorry, carry on.
The work that you guys do is absolutely amazing, isn't it? Because you work with ex-offenders, you work with people with mental health problems.
Yeah. We do. I mean, the spectrum of who we work with is incredibly broad. We have a number of specialist services in London that support individuals with quite complex histories and challenging behaviours, personality disorder, offending histories, and some quite complex mental health. But we also have a whole range of services across London and Bedfordshire and in Brighton that provide support to people with a whole wide range of needs and vulnerabilities. So from those who are street homeless, those who just have sort of generic housing-based needs, and those with some more complex and challenges, kind of mixtures of dual diagnosis and a variety of needs.
Wow, and that that work is just inspirational in itself. Without getting into mentoring and the stuff we're going to talk about now. So, what does mentoring mean to you?
Mentoring to me, it's that process of sharing that lived experience and using, episodes and elements of life that you've been through to help other people recognise that actually where they're at can just be part of a process and part of a bigger picture. So it's that sharing of lived experience and helping somebody come to their own decisions about what they want to do with their lives, but just kind of doing that by lived experience. And that's, I think the most powerful way of connecting with somebody is to have that element of shared experience.
It's so true. It's so true, and that's part of the thing that we've been talking about throughout many of the interviews that we've been doing has been that a mentor has walked the walk.
Absolutely, yeah.
A mentor is talking from and sharing from experience.
Absolutely, yeah. And having done this work for many years and managed people who have done this work for many years, one of the things that they quite often hear is, well, that's great, you give me that advice, but actually what do you know? What would you know? You've never been in this position. And some of the time maybe they have been in a similar position, but most of the time possibly not, especially with some of the more complex elements that people are facing. So to be able to have that connection by actually going, I have been through something similar. Our experiences weren't exactly the same, but actually I know how I felt at the time. You can never understand how somebody is feeling within that moment, but you can certainly relate in terms of how you felt in a very similar situation.
Absolutely, and it's so true. Now, is there a particular mentor that sort of stood out in your life?
I suppose career-wise, I'm lucky to have had a couple of incredible mentors. Anthony, who is my current director, he's a constant source of mentoring to me. Somebody that's always there, very accessible, allows me to kind of make suggestions, make mistakes, but kind of guide me and coach me through those elements. And somebody that's always there just to offer their expert advice and opinion, because they've been in similar roles to that I am now, and just ways of helping you grow, I suppose, professionally. I have another. I'm very lucky enough to call her a dear friend, but her name's Gail, and we don't work in the same organisation. She works for the local NHS trust, and I've worked alongside her for maybe 12, 13 years now, and in a very different way to Anthony, because we don't work directly. But she's, those people that just like champion your ideas and everything you do, and you spend 10 minutes talking to them, and actually you just feel incredibly uplifted and enthusiastic, and you can take on the world. My ideas are brilliant. So that for me, is an excellent mentoring relationship that I have with both of those people. I'm very grateful and lucky to have that.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing, and thanks to them. Let's be honest.
I know, right?
Absolutely, and it's so true. And one of the things that we've found has cropped up lots as part of the conversations is that actually people have gone through their lives they
Mm.
their mentors have changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's absolutely true. I think it's you kind of, you know, what you need from people at that time changes the whole way along your personal life and through your career. And if, you know, sometimes you're lucky enough to gravitate towards people that, you know, can support you in that role, and other times maybe it does need to be more structured and you actually need to seek out those mentors. And I think that's why, you know, the training and the programs that you provide are just so brilliant at kind of bringing those two elements together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And do you want to share a bit with our audience a bit about the programs and the training that you talked about there?
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of it all stemmed from a conversation that I had about a year ago with a lovely chap called James, who I've worked with for many years. He has been one of our service users, and he then became one of our volunteers. And we were talking about his personal recovery and how he really wanted, you know, to be able. He said, "Is there some way that I can find out if people have been through a similar thing to what I have experienced, and how can I help them?" So this kind of got me thinking, because we weren't really doing any. We were doing informal peer support, but nothing kind of like structured mentoring. So it got me thinking, and we had a look around for how we could best bring that into the organisation. So obviously, although I'm based in Luton, we are quite far-reaching. So we wanted to develop, almost as an organisational ethos, what we were going to do with peer mentoring. So we did some research and came across the mentoring school, your lovely selves, and went about creating kind of a bespoke training package, a train the trainer, that would enable us to sort of, you know, pick up all the information and the advice and the training that you gave us, and then kind of like filter it out through our organisation. So we came along in August, lovely drive down to Southampton, and did the train the trainer session with yourself. It was me and my two colleagues, hoping that we have enough manpower now that we can filter it out throughout the organisation. And we kind of came back and we got cracking straight away. So we've actually just finished our first lot of training. Within that group, we decided to use it as a bit of a pilot. So we actually had, I think there was 4 staff staff that particularly we wanted to then become peer mentoring champions within our organisation. So those are the people that will be able to engage with some of our sort of additional services. So not our core service, but people that work with our social groups and our Routes to Recovery garden, and the slightly more holistic elements of our support. They're also there then to be able to share their knowledge with their colleagues. And, you know, if they want to have a chat about something that might potentially be either interested in becoming a mentor or a mentee, then I've got those staff within my services that are able to kind of share that information and kind of, you know, jolly people along. Because obviously the support staff are incredibly busy, and the core function of what they're doing, a lot of it is crisis intervention and crisis management. In Luton, we're working a lot with people who are at the point of eviction. So the peer mentoring is that lovely kind of element that's down the line. It's something aspirational that the support staff can talk to those who are engaging with their services, to kind of build that bigger picture. And it helps to identify that person who we're working with, they're not just a pending eviction. They're not just somebody who's going through a debt issue. They're people that have had histories and they will have futures. And that's what I feel really passionately about. It's just not seeing that person for that issue that's going on there at that moment in time. And it's about, you know, what else can you do with your life once we can deal with that? What else can we do afterwards? So and then James, who started this whole kind of idea in my head anyway. So he is now our first fully fledged peer mentor. Really excited. So I've actually just worked with him. He's written a little bio, just a bit about himself, because not all of the staff know him. We're a big service, so we've sent that out, and so we're now starting to have conversations with people about, you know, I've got a client that might be interested. How do we go about it? So yeah, it's really exciting. So we'll let the dust settle on this for a bit and see what kind of response we get, and then hopefully we'll run the course again. So it's really exciting.
Excellent. And in the people that you've trained, have you noticed any differences, any impact already?
I think when we got to the end and we did quite a lot of reflecting back on what all the different modules, the 7 different modules, and I think for the staff who did it, for my peer mentor champions, I think they identified actually because obviously they're all support workers. So for them, I think some of the tools that they acquired through the training, they're pretty transferable in terms of just engaging with people. I can see that they're already coming to me with ideas about different ways that we could set this up, whether we do one-to-one, we could do group work. And when they're going out and networking, which we do an awful lot of in Luton, there's an incredible kind of health and well-being sector. We work very closely with our partners, and we're just now starting to create a little bit of a buzz about what we're doing locally. And we're really keen for partners to kind of join in with us, to share our training resource. And so so my peer mentor champions are going out and spreading the word. It's lovely.
Excellent. And that's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about, at this stage, it's about getting the word out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for your clients, for your service users, what are you hoping for them from this?
I think there's the two elements really. For those that are looking to become mentors, I think it can be a really important and intrinsic part of people's own recovery to kind of recognise what they gain from going through probably some quite challenging and difficult life experiences. So to be able to share that with other people, I think it almost brings it back round full circle, and it's kind of, gives you a bit of purpose for actually going through the circumstances that you went through. In Penrose, we're very keen to, like I said, look at the holistic approach in supporting people. So by being able to offer peer mentoring, it's about improving confidence, giving people new skills, and in the right environment. It's a safe environment where they can truly learn how to get back some of those independent skills that they have, communicating, and hopefully that will then give them the confidence, some skills that they will be able to pursue, their pathway to getting back into employment. So for people becoming peer mentors, I think it's going to create these real opportunities. For those who look to be mentored, I think it will offer just a different angle to support. It will enable relationships to form. It will enable people to really learn from others' experience and help them to look at where they are at now and what it is they would like to achieve in the future. Not always in such a structured support work kind of way, but in a much more, this is what I went through, this is what we tried, and working through that together and kind of having that dialogue, coming up with a little bit of an action plan. Do you think that'll work? That might work. It's that other trusted person that they have in their life. So I'm really excited. I think the potential for the impact for both those who are mentoring and those who are being menteed, I think is really quite vast. And you look at, in terms of, recovery, and some of the services that we run, particularly, they're not our core services, but they do look at providing that sort of wider net of support so that people don't feel they have to go back and engage with services that perhaps aren't the most appropriate to meet their needs. So rather than going into, coming back into one of our core services, actually what they can do is they just, they have that circle of support in their peer mentors. You could take that on a wider scale and know that there's been a lot of research done into actually the impact of peer mentors on mental health services and, readmissions into hospital. So if we're looking at taking it, in that direction, which we do work with the local mental health boards, and it would be fabulous to get that element of peer support running there. So actually when people come out of hospital, rather than feeling they have to rely on their existing services, they have a whole different way of expressing themselves, getting the support that they need. We're actually working very closely with the people participation team, that's tricky to say, for the East London Foundation Trust, which is our local trust. And we are doing they do peer mentoring. So we're looking actually to develop a peer support network across Luton. And hopefully that will just become a bit of a flagship and a bit of a pilot, and we'll be able to roll that out in other locations as well. And we've had a really great response from some of our partner agencies who are really keen to become part of this network, which I think is just so exciting, because then it means that we can do a bit of cross-pollination. So we can have peer mentors who might go and support people at Mind. People from the Mental Health Trust might come and support people in our service. So the scope is really for it to become quite a massive element of the support that we're able to offer locally.
That's huge, and ultimately that's what it's all about. It's about
Absolutely. Yeah.
absolutely making that difference. Now,
Yeah.
whilst we're talking, sorry, I've just thought of another question. I'm going to
Okay.
throw another question at you. But whilst we're
Okay.
talking, I was just wondering. So, in all of the different, I'm going to say different aspects of your work,
Yeah.
do you see any sort of common themes that might come up in mentoring?
Mentor. Well, I think a lot of it is about that acknowledgement that people's recoveries are all different.
Hmm.
And I use the term recovery not just relating to mental health, but if you're facing any challenging life circumstances, whether it's a marital breakup, whether it's an eviction, whether it's unemployment, long-term unemployment, it's all part of a bigger picture. And I think what peer mentoring does, it gives you that vision to be able to see it, break it all down and work through things in different, in steps. And peer mentoring is such an important part of that. Does that answer the question? I'm
Yeah, no, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, because it's about recognizing the people going through
Yeah.
the journeys they're going through, and
Yeah, absolutely.
whatever they're having to overcome. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it's about giving them skills to grow as people.
Oh, definitely, absolutely, and it is exactly that. It's more working towards self-sufficiency and independence and confidence, and that's something that we try and promote across all of our services, through the support work that we provide. But actually, in terms of being able to have that input from a peer, I think it just has that, it's very powerful, and it has that impact that perhaps isn't always there, maybe from a support worker service user dynamic. So it's incredibly powerful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And can you see in the future that actually other schemes like this will end up popping up in different, how to say, I want to say almost in different third sector areas?
I would hope so. Yeah, absolutely. I don't see why not. But I also think that there's it kind of makes sense to have a real conjoined approach to this, because if you're pooling your resources, it's just going to improve the opportunities and improve the resources. Really, it's in these times of austerity, we do all what we work very closely. Again, not with your sort of partners that you would expect, but we're quite innovative in who we work with. So we work with some of our health and leisure care providers, looking at that kind of thing, because the element of bringing physical health and mental health closer together is vitally important. So I think for Luton, in terms of what the peer support network will look like, it will have, we have our Luton culture departments that are in there. We have Live Well and Active Luton. We have our drug and alcohol providers, CGL. We have Mind. So I'd like to think that actually it's a big enough area to pool all those resources to improve those options. It just means that it's more likely that you're going to be able to find a match, peer mentor wise, if your pool of mentors is that little bit bigger.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're so true. It's so true. Gosh, this is fascinating, and certainly, because we've had interviews today on mentoring children, on mentoring
Yeah.
in business, mentoring entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
and all the rest of it. And what you're talking about is so similar to the other different areas of
Yeah.
mentoring. And actually, some of the things we're coming out with are so
Mm.
true. And one of the things that's cropped up in a few interviews is the concept of actually that you have different mentors over time.
Mm-hmm. To kind of support you with different elements of where you are at in your journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's about that. I think one of the things that the training really struck a chord with my staff that did it was about the importance of that communication and how you really connect with people. For some people, it's a very natural thing to be able to do, and for other people, they really do appreciate having almost like those guidelines of actually, tips on connecting with people. It doesn't come naturally to everyone. So I think, once you kind of bring that into the equation, I think it will work really, really well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to add in use of silence as well.
Yes, that was very interesting. I don't find that very easy actually to hold a silence. But again, that was something we spent quite a lot of time talking about and owning that silence. And inviting that person. It doesn't, just because no one's talking doesn't mean there's nothing left to be said, and it's their silence to hold. So just shush and let them, you know, if they want to finish, they'll finish. If they want to then carry on. So those use of, you know, very open questions and your open body language, that was something we spent a lot of time and actually had a lot of fun exploring how that works. You've got to love a role play, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. For the audience out there, just so you can understand what we're talking about here, part and parcel of the mentor's mantra is apart from making your mentee feel safe, it's actually giving them the space to think and the space to talk before you start planning what they need to do, before you start coming up with suggestions. And the way you need to do that as a mentor is very much to use silence. And when you ask your mentee a question, you need to make a very conscious decision about silence that is, whether that's your silence that you're then going to elaborate on, or actually it's their silence that they need to break.
That's right. Yeah, it's all good stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so now in terms of mentoring, in terms of where we go from here, what do you think the future of mentoring is?
I think it's something that certainly within the sector that I work in, that it's going to have to become a much bigger part of what we do, in terms of offering different types of support. You know, we understand that not everyone responds to the right input, communication, ways of offering support. For some people, support can feel very structured. It's about that. What peer mentoring has it has that balance in there, and for some people that can be so important in how they see their own situations and then how they figure out how to move forward with that. So I think that certainly within Penrose, our organisational ethos is to really bring it into all of our projects, all of our services, but not to do it in isolation, to do it in partnership. So I want to get as many people trained in-house as possible. I want to work with the rest of the sector in Luton, and probably spilling over into all our other boroughs and you know, whatever as well. Just to really demonstrate how powerful it can be and how well it can work, and just the additionality that it can bring to people's recovery and independence, just to, you know, to help them see that where they have been is really important in terms of where they're going. Oh, that sounded easy.
But it's so important. It's so important. Well, Emmeline, it's been such an immense pleasure hosting you on this, and just hearing about. I obviously, you know, I was obviously involved with training you, but in terms of what's happened since, that's been over to you guys, and it sounds fantastic. And my goodness me, that's going to have huge impact. Now, if anyone watching this wants to get in touch with you, wants to find out more about Penrose, how do they do that?
Well, yes, we have. I'm sitting in our central office right now, surrounded by very many busy people at computers. But www.penrose.org.uk is probably, that's the first point of call. In Luton, if you happen to be passing Victoria House on Victoria Street, come on in. The kettle is always on. But yeah, so absolutely. If anyone missed that, then they can just, you know, get in touch with you. I'm happy for you to give out my email address.
Super.
Lovely.
Super.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you.